Hello and welcome to this video guide in how to use ReportAway. In this guide we're going to be talking about a fictitious example of a heating and ventilation contractor who's been called out to fix an air handling unit. This contractor is going to be using ReportAway to record their time and expenses while on this service call. So let's get started. With ReportAway open, we go and we open the time editor. So we're going to put in a description of the service call. In this case, we'll say fix air handling unit. At that point, the only other thing the service person knows is that it's roughly the start time that they've been called to site. So we'll just say that it's 9 a.m. And the status of this record is going to be left in an open state, marking it as ineligible for reporting. Okay, and if we go and we look at this time record, we'll see that on this particular date there's an open time record, open as noted by the dash. Now let's assume that the service person has completed the work and is now ready to close this time record. They go in, they open it up. They found out that this was actually air handling unit number 1, which is, in this example, not under contract. They're going to set the project to be a billable service. They're going to mark this record as being complete and billable. The activity they performed was a mechanical repair, and they spent 2 hours on it. So they update the finish time to be 11 a.m. and the duration is auto computed to be 2 hours, and save. So you'll notice here that the marking in the time browser has changed to an asterisk. That indicates that this record is ready for reporting. Now, continuing with this example, let's assume that the service person had some expenses in servicing this customer. So, remembering that this service person had driven to that particular customer site in the past, they've decided to duplicate a previous record for personal automobile use. So, this record can be duplicated by simply rolling over it, selecting the menu key, and duplicating it. Now, we're going to update the project because this was a billable service. I'm going to mark it as complete. The previous distance of 50 kilometers is still accurate, and the only other thing that needs to be updated here is the date on which the expense was incurred, in this case the 22nd. Still an automobile expense, same employee, and the note that it was kilometers. We'll save that record. So now there's a new record duplicated from the previous one. Let's also, just for fun and as an example of how to enter a new expense record, assume that the service person took out the maintenance person from the school. In this case, they have to record a new expense. So we'll just put it in here and we'll say lunch with customer. Again, we're going to charge it to the contract here because we don't want to charge the customer for the lunch we just bought them. Let's say that $20 were spent. In this case, it's not an automobile expense, but rather it is meals and entertainment. The payee will be the name of the restaurant. Let's just say that that's Dave's Restaurant. And there are no other notes. Go in and save that. Excellent. Okay, so now if we go in and we browse time records, we see that there's a record for fixing the air handling unit. And expenses, there's 2 things here. There's lunch with the customer as well as driving out to the site. And that's it for recording the time and expenses associating with that day. Now, next, let's assume we want to create a report that includes all of the time and expenses in ReportAway. So, how do we do reports? First of all, we're going to do a time report. To do a time report, we go to the Browse Time Records. We select the menu key and we say Report All. We get a pop-up that says you're about to send an email. Okay. And now we're presented with the outgoing report. All we have to do is hit send. And off she goes. If we go back to ReportAway, it's worth noting that the status of these time records have all been changed to an X. That means they've been included in a report and as such are not eligible for reporting a second time. You'll also note that here in this example on March 10th there was a previous time record with a dash here. That dash means it's an open record and therefore was not eligible for that report. The assumption is that someone will come back in later and update this record and report it later. If you don't want to keep old reports around or old reported records around, you can just delete them and they're gone. As simple as that. In the case of expenses, they're also sent in the same way. You go to the expense browser, select menu, report all, and off they go. Send. Now, let's just assume that you sent that report, but you realized that maybe you didn't want to send it and you're going to delete that email at a later date. Again, you'll notice all these records have been marked as having been reported. You're not allowed to edit reported items. What we're going to do is revert those reported items back to a completed state. And now, again, you'll notice that they've all gone to an asterisk. That means they're eligible for reporting again. And for example, let's say that we remembered we didn't spend $20, it was actually $30. Important to note for the employee incurring the expense. So we're going to save that, and now we're going to report again. And off it goes. And since we've done all that, reported all those records, we're going to now delete them just to clean things up. So there you have it. A very concrete example of how to use ReportAway to enter your time and expenses while on the go. And reporting is a snap. It's a simple one operation selection. Thanks for listening to this video guide, and we're hoping that you'll find ReportAway useful in the future.